Good morning.
Good morning, Myra. Are you
How
having
are
a
you?
rough morning?
I am. Oh my gosh. I'm in that moment where it's like, why? Why is this happening? Why today? Why this week? What is going on? It's been a party, so I'm just taking it as it is. There's lessons in life being learned, I guess. But yeah, no, I was checking my connection this morning and I was ready. I had all my setup going and I couldn't get anything to connect to the Wi-Fi at all. Like nothing would connect. And so I ended up doing a hard restart on my computer, but then the modem had to have a hard restart. And I'm over here going, man, I really wish I had Union internet. And maybe I wouldn't have this problem.
That's right. That's absolutely. I got on beautifully.
Yeah, I did not. So,
Easy, easy.
yeah, I won't disclose my provider. But yeah, so that was fun. And then this week I've had my, my mom, she backed into my car, just sitting in the driveway. So, I mean, that was also, has been a party. So, yeah, just one thing after the other. So all the little beautiful moments in life, just telling myself that.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, it sounds like you've had a rough week. I hope whatever you're supposed to learn, you're learning so it can start to go a little smoother.
Yeah.
But I get it. I ran into one of Troy's friends in our driveway once, not even thinking. I jumped in my truck in the garage. He'd parked behind our garage and just mindlessness, right? And just
Mhm.
threw it in reverse. And I,
Boom.
ooh, I'm going to have to go in and tell him now.
Yeah, I felt worse for my mom than for myself, honestly, because
That I was crying. His
yeah,
friend's name's Slim. He's like, it's okay. It's just a
yeah.
car. Like, we'll fix it. I felt so bad.
Just as she called me crying her eyes out, and um, I thought my dog died by the look on Blake's face. I thought that one of them got out and that they had died, and I'm like, this is awesome, yay. No, it was just my car, and it's just an object. And that's how I look at it. It's just an object. It can get fixed. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So she hit the front end of it?
She did, and I laughed because I'm like, how the hell do you miss a big white Wagoneer? The thing is massive. It's not like a little beep beep, Prius. And like how do you just miss that, And even when she got out the door, she had to look down the driveway to see, there's
Yeah.
a car in the driveway, and she just totally bopped to the top. I don't know where she was going, and was excited to go to the Dollar General for the 12th time in a day. And there she goes. So, yeah, I'm like, oh, as soon as I found out what it was, I'm like, that could be fixed. And, you know,
Yeah.
she's got
Yeah.
really, swanky insurance where her rate won't go up.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, well, better you than me. So,
Yeah, exactly. You just have to have the inconvenience while it's in the shop, but that's okay. Yeah.
yeah, I think they're paying for a rental car.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, I said, that's on you, Joni.
Yeah.
Love
That's
you,
right.
but there goes my beautiful pristine car.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't even had it 6 months, have you?
No.
Pretty new with it.
Yeah, and I'm over here like, gosh, we were talking to Nola the other day and we're like, how much do you love us? Like being silly, and she goes, I love you 10:30.
10:30.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take it.
Like good or bad.
Yeah, I love you 10:30. So speaking of the time, I'm like, of course, I love you 10:30.
I love you at 12:30 and
Yeah.
11:30. That's so cute. Oh, I love it. Kids say the funniest stuff. You
Yeah.
wonder where they get it.
Yeah. Well, what have you been doing?
Well, I'm getting ready to leave for Canada next week, so I've been trying to get a lot of stuff wrapped up here at work and yeah, just getting ready to go on vacation.
Oh.
So we're going to Victoria. No, sorry, Vancouver Island. Victoria's on Vancouver Island. So I'm excited. I've never been there. I've heard it's really beautiful.
Are you hunting?
Yes, we're bear hunting and we're going to go salmon fishing. and just touring around.
Do you bring your salmon back?
Oh,
Is that a
yeah.
weird question?
Yeah. Up to 50 pounds. Well, on the airplane, I can have up to 50 pounds in my bag. So, yeah.
Oh,
No, we're bringing some back. Yeah.
that's so cool. So do you just
So,
pack like a cooler?
I don't know. Never done it. I'm going to figure it out,
Yeah,
though.
that's cool.
I'm sure
Well, you
they
have
have
to
a
tell
store I
us.
can go buy a cooler, and I'm sure they'll help us out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this is my first time. I've never done a fishing trip like this where you can
Mm-hmm.
bring back the meat. I've done deep sea fishing, but that's different. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
All right. Well, should we get into our episode today, Myra?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this
I
guest.
am so excited.
You've
Uh,
pumped me up, so
I
I
know.
am
Dominic
jazzed.
cannot disappoint. I told Myra this is going to be one of the best podcasts ever. Our guest today is Dominic Syracuse, and he's a man of many talents. So who knows where this conversation will go? But initially, we met talking about cognitive behavioral theater, which I had never heard of until I had a conversation with Dominic. So I'm really, really excited to start this conversation and learn more about it. So welcome, Dominic.
Hey, we're in.
There you
That
are.
was so great. I loved listening to your conversation. I'm so sorry about your car.
Oh, it happens, but I am so interested in your voice, Dominic. Do you
My
know that
voice?
as a DJ host? Are you a DJ? Are you a radio host?
It's funny.
Like-
It's funny you say that. I started my career in entertainment as a hard rock and heavy metal DJ. And so I was like,
That's so
hey,
cool.
how's everybody doing? This is Dom over at 93.7. All right. Doing that a lot. It was really funny because I was also I was too polite for hard rock and heavy metal. I remember interviewing I interviewed the artist Tech Nine. I don't know if you know Tech Nine.
Yeah.
He's an amazing rapper and he works in the metal space and everything. And I remember he was so cool. He had all this cool slang he was saying. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be doing this. You know what? I'm sizzling and all this stuff. And I was like, absolutely, Mr. Nine. That's fantastic.
Mr. Nine.
Mr.
Yeah,
Nine.
that's great, Mr. Nine. And so yeah, it didn't.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's how I actually got started. Was doing radio.
That's so cool. Yeah, my dad was a DJ, and it was way back in the day, and he would prank our family members by calling them and pretending like they won something on the radio. And
That's so cool.
yeah, it was awesome. And his voice though was more of the older, deeper radio
Oh yeah.
voice. Yeah, so anytime my mom says she fell in love with him because of his voice. He'd call her on the phone, when they were courting or whatever. And so anyways, I love it. I love that your background's being a DJ. That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My wife, I'm very happily married to my wife. And we're to a point because that's all I do. I do podcasts, but I'm also a stand-up comedian and I speak for a living, especially doing cognitive behavioral theater, as you were talking about. But that's all I do is speak. So my wife is more like, hey, maybe could we be quiet when you come home? She's like, could we maybe?
Silent
Awesome.
and beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. My husband feels the same way. I get it. I lost my voice the other week and I told Tressa, I'm like, I don't even know. I was fighting through it. I don't know how not to talk. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, and their ears are bleeding and I'm over here
Just,
continuing to have this conversation. Yeah. And Tressa's like, how about you just,
Yeah.
just
No
stop.
one.
Yeah.
Stop. Give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Dominic, do you want to tell everybody what cognitive behavioral theater is?
Yeah. So, so as I said, I've worked in entertainment my whole life. Actually, I'm here in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I've always been kind of class clown, I guess, and so I started acting when I was 8 years old. I did my first play here at the Cheyenne Little Theater. Woo!
Woo!
Look out!
Cheyenne Little Theater. Woo!
Yeah, get it. Yeah. Woo. Uh, it was funny too because it's always been kind of a calling for me. Like I remember I got in a play when I was 8 years old, and I remember being like, "Oh, finally, I'm almost washed up at this point." Like
Years
I'm
old.
almost in
At
double
8.
digits, and I haven't
Yeah.
even. Oh gosh, finally I'm in a play. And and then that's all I did, throughout elementary school, middle school, high school. I was always in theater and I play music and all sorts of stuff. And then when I graduated, I've gone all over the United States training in places. I did theater at this place called the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, which was started by Gary Sinise and John Malkovich. Studied in Los Angeles at the Groundling School of Improv, which is where a lot of Saturday
Oh,
Night Live folks
Let's
come
go,
from.
Groundlings.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Studied at Groundlings, which was a blast. And then I got my master's degree at this place called the Stella Adler School for Acting. And Stella Adler's out of New York. She trains all sorts of, she trained like folks like Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, Benicio del Toro, Mark Ruffalo. Essentially, if you're a great actor and your name ends with O, Stella trained you.
She came from you, or came from
All
her.
the
Yeah,
O's.
that's awesome.
Kevin
Awesome.
Costner,
Yeah.
Kevin Costner O,
Yeah.
Selma Hayek O, a
Go.
lot of O's. But
Did Bingo come from her too?
Bingo was
Bingo
his name O.
Name-o.
Stella trained Bingo. That's right. And it doesn't matter. But no, that's where I went to study because those are kind of all my film heroes, and I wanted to be like that. But Stella had a program that was even kind of more interesting to me. It was called the Outreach Program, and she, since the 80s, had been going into maximum security prisons and teaching acting inside of the prison system. And I was like, I have to do that. That's what I want to do. I was like, I was so enthralled because to pay my way through school, I always supported people with intellectual and physical disabilities. For a couple reasons. One, because acting is a very like, look at me art. And I wanted to kind of give back in some way. So that was my way of giving back. Also, no matter where you go in the country, they're always hiring. That job has a massive turnaround rate. So I always knew that I could like dive in anywhere. And it's kind of the best kept secret because a lot of times it's just like hanging out with folks in their house and playing video games and going bowling, which is awesome. So when I found out that there was, this acting program that went into prisons, that was kind of like this bridging of my worlds. And I was like, can I please do this? I'll wait in line. I'll pay you. And they were like, you are the only person interested. Go ahead. It's all yours.
It's all for
There's
you.
no line.
Yeah,
You're in
go
the
right
line.
it. Go right ahead. So I started going in and teaching acting in the prison systems, and it was amazing. We'd play these very simple improv games, and people would just come. I mean, it was so much more like a powder keg of energy when you're in the prisons, because for most of the time, these are folks who are inside of like a little cage for 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
So when they get the chance to come out, everyone's like, were you scared? Were you scared? I was like, no way. You know how happy they were to see me? They were like, let's do, and so.
They're like, let's go.
Yeah, they're like, let's go, and it's just so much more fun because like when I make a joke at a comedy club, people are like, ha, 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 ha. When you make a joke in a prison, people throw chairs and break dance. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
whoa. You know what I mean? You're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's so much more fun. So we started doing that. It was really, really great. And I was approached by a school that operated inside the prisons, and they told me that they were kind of getting more out of the men and women in the program. They were getting more out of the acting class than they were out of their anger management program. Emotionally.
Yeah.
And they asked me if I'd be interested in coming and teaching anger management. And I was like, I'm an actor. I can pretend like I know how to do that.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, that's illegal. They were like, we have to train you. So I took, I got trained at the Cognitive Behavioral Institute of California in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the go-to therapeutic method to handle anxiety, stress, depression, addiction, suicidal thoughts. It's used in motivational speaking. It's used a lot in like sports and things like this. And the cool thing about it is it's completely medication-less. It's just all about changing your mindset. And when you change your mindset, it changes the way you feel about things. So as soon as I learned that, I was like, oh, no wonder the acting stuff worked. That's what actors learn. Actors learn how to change their mind to think like their character. And then you start feeling right now in this moment what your character would be feeling. So through imagination, you can access real emotions. That's acting 101. So I just started using acting to teach cognitive behavioral therapy, called it cognitive behavioral theater. And yeah, I know. It's so smart, but it also makes for the longest website name ever.
Gosh, I'm sure that domain is definitely available.
I feel bad for anybody who has to introduce me, because when they speak, they're like, and he's the CEO of Cognitive, Dominic Syracuse, everybody, like it's the longest title. Trust me, you actually crushed it in the beginning, so I'm proud of you. You crushed it. So anyway, since then I've gone on. I use acting and improv techniques to teach this kind of stuff, and I've been going around teaching it all over the place. I've worked with 8 different divisions of the Air Force. I've worked with nurses during the COVID-19 pandemic. I worked with specifically art therapists in Ukraine who are helping with families of war victims. Just kind of all over the place. It's been really, really cool and exciting and fun. And then I've also done a lot of stuff with corporations, like, everywhere from like the animal shelter to banks to the Bureau of Land Management, because that's where I thought my acting career would take me.
I bet that was a blast.
Yeah,
it was so fun. Well, and what confused me more is that the acronym for Bureau of Land Management is BLM.
Yeah. You probably thought you were going to be the other one, not that one.
Exactly, like
not
that. So
the
I
one
was
that
like,
don't talk back,
exactly.
The land.
Well, it was so weird because I got like an email and it was like, the BLM is interested in your trainings, and I was like, really? That's great. Like, I wonder what, and then I'm talking to the guy on the phone and he's like, yeah, we're having a lot of problems with horses and wolves. And I'm like,
what?
Really? I didn't know. Wow. That's the whole other, there were different issues that I thought you were dealing with, but wolves too?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I realized I was talking to the Bureau of Land Management. Anyway, so I do a bunch of that kind of thing, and now I'm on a big project where I'm going around the state, and what I want to do is I want to provide my services free of charge for all first responders and nonprofit employees in the state, and also like health and human service providers. So that means like mental health, medical staff, that kind of thing. Because I found out that, these are like the boots on the ground people, right? These are the people who are, their job is trauma. Like when you have a problem, who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters.
No.
Probably these people, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is they have like 0 to no mental health support on staff, which kind of blew me away. In fact, in my hometown, there's a resource center for people who find themselves homeless. And it was crazy. The owner told me that the first thing they ask people is, hey, what are your coping skills like? Because we can't afford benefits, So people just do this stuff because they love it and it's their passion, it's their calling, and it's a tough, tough job. And so I want to be able to provide this kind of stuff free of charge. And plus, the way I do it is all about having fun rather than like, instead of it being like, let's sit around and talk about our feelings. You know what I mean? It's more like, hey, let's play this game that is also going to kind of teach you how your brain works and it seems to work pretty well. So the goal is to go all across the state and do it in, if I can, every single county. But right now we have like 9 cities booked out through September, which is going to be super fun.
Have you done the first one yet, Dominic?
We
Is that
did.
in-
Just did it in the very first one in Cheyenne, which was a blast. It was so much fun. Because part of what we're doing too is we're working with 211, which is kind of meant to be like Wyoming's non-emergency 911.
Yeah.
Because you have first responders being flooded with calls that aren't necessarily emergency. And then you have all these nonprofits that provide wonderful services, but a lot of people don't know they exist. So 211 bridges people together. Now, I'm going to let them edit this out if this is a completely family-friendly show, because the funniest thing about this is I was talking to one of our big sponsors for the show. Wonderful guy. His name's Harvey DeSelms. He owns DeSelms Fine Art and Printing here in Cheyenne, and he does all these amazing bronze statues to commemorate Cheyenne history throughout the downtown area. And he heard about it. He said, I want to sponsor the event. And I was telling him that the whole thing is for 211 and the goal of it. But he was looking at me with this face the whole time. And I was like, I'm sorry, what's that about? He thought I said 2 on 1.
Oh, that's incredible.
So
And he's
this
ready
was-
to make a statue for 2
Yes,
on 1.
yes,
that
this was the
yeah.
this was the conversation. I was like, so we're really going 2 on 1 with this. The goal is to bring people together, to connect us in a way. And I'm going to be the middleman. And he's just like,
He's like, what am
Are
I
you
doing?
the- Are you going to be the on of the one? Are
yeah,
you the
I
on
was,
of
I
the
was
one?
gonna, yeah. And then he's looking at me, and I'm going like, and we're going across the whole state, man. And he's like, and I'm gonna
Hitting
make
every
sure
county.
that every first responder
Yeah.
is there, and woo. And so
wow.
Harvey his eyes were like that, and he said, "Oh, 2-1, okay, all right, this whole thing makes more sense now," which was just the best. So anyway,
That's
we had
awesome.
the first event, we had a blast. It was so much fun, and it seemed to work out really, really well. We got tons and tons of signups. 90% of participants said that it helped with their stress day to day, and so now it's just off to the races,
Yeah, that's
So-
amazing.
Why Wyoming, Dominic? I mean, I know that you talked about it a little bit in your history of acting and where you come from, what you're doing, but why here? Why are you doing this here?
That's an amazing question. It's because, well, okay. So I moved to Los Angeles in 2011. And I went, that's where I kind of studied and did all the stuff with Groundlings and with Stella and everything. And I also did stand up out there. And during the pandemic, everything shut down. I mean, the prison shut down. There was no live entertainment. In fact, like the people who would book me in stand up were like, don't expect to get back on stage for another 18 months. Well,
Mhm.
I was born and raised in Cheyenne, and I was a single dad out in LA. I had my son, and every summer my son would go with my parents. So he'd go visit his grandparents in Wyoming. And I was like, you know what? I'll come. I'll go back to Wyoming, because in Wyoming, in order for us to be 6 feet apart, we've got to come 10 to 15 feet closer to each
Yeah.
other.
There is no
Right?
6 feet.
Right,
Yeah.
it's so true.
Yeah, there's no, so it's cool. So I'm going to go, quarantine there.
Yeah.
And so I went, came back to Cheyenne, chilled out for a bit. And I said to myself, when I go back to LA, I'm going to need to get my chops up. So I found a bar in town that had a real big open space they weren't using. And I asked if I could start doing some, open mic stand-up comedy out of there to practice and everything. And it turned out, not only were we the only place open for entertainment in town, we were the only place open for entertainment in like the country. So we were getting comedians from everywhere: Salt Lake City, Denver, Nebraska, South Dakota. Wow. People were driving in to come do to come do 10 minutes in a little bar in Wyoming.
Yeah.
And And the
That's
word
awesome.
started spreading amongst the comedy community. And the craziest thing is I got a call from a stand-up legend, a guy named Doug Stanhope, who Doug Stanhope has 10 specials on Comedy Central. He used to host The Man Show with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He was the original host of Girls Gone Wild back in the day.
Oh gosh, yeah. I remember that.
And
Oh yeah, when Tressa goes, oh, I know that one. Yeah.
oh, Tressa, it's like, yeah, oh yeah,
Sorry,
now
I know.
now
that
that
one.
rings
Yeah.
a bell.
Yeah. Oh, we're back. We're back in business. We got it.
Oh, hilarious.
And so he Facebook messaged me, and he was like, "Hey, I heard you got a club. I'll come play it." I was like, "Are you
Wow.
serious?" So
That's
so he
awesome.
came through, and then from there that opened up the door to have all these wonderful acts. A gentleman named Christopher Titus, who used to have a show on Fox, came through. Bob Saget on the last tour before his
Wow.
death, literally 6 weeks
Wow.
before he passed, came through and did a thing. And so I was like, man, I'm getting way more play out here in Wyoming than I did in LA. So, and then I made a crazy mistake where I meet the love of my life and fall madly in love and get married. And so now I'm here, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, I've laid roots, but it's been fantastic because since COVID, the world's changed a lot. Everything's kind of moved to online platforms and everything. And on top of that, we've been able to really put Wyoming on the map. Before, a lot of stand-up comedians just had Wyoming blacked out. They were like,
Yeah.
Wyoming, where's that? What is that? You know what I mean? They didn't even know. I mean,
It was a whole bit in itself.
oh, I'm telling
Right?
you, this is a
That's the
true
whole-
story.
yeah.
100% true story. 100%. When I was in LA, I was driving with, I was talking to, my boss at the time and his wife who operated stuff inside the jails. And I told him, he's like, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Wyoming." And he would just immediately forget. He'd always go, "Oh, I've always wanted to visit Montana." Every time. It's like he'd forget and just go, I swear, every time he'd be like, "Dom, you're from like Wisconsin?" He'd just immediately forget. And the funniest part was his wife got sick of it because he's like, "Where are you from?" And I'd be like, "I'm from Wyoming." And then Gary would say something like, "Oh, so what is the weather like in Nebraska?" And his wife looked at him and went, "Gary, he's from Utah."
Oh,
They just, it's like their mind blacked out. It was so funny. And
oh my
so,
gosh.
Did you think they were punking you? Like, this
No.
can't be real, right?
no, nobody knew what that, like I had friends because in LA, it's kind of a big, LA's a huge, everyone from all over the world comes to LA. So I had friends from everywhere. I had friends from Israel. I had friends
Yeah.
from Greece. I had friends from France, Switzerland, And I was talking to them and they'd be like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Wyoming." They're like, "What country is that?"
Yeah.
They had no idea. And so it's
What country
hilarious
is that?
because so anyway, us doing this, a lot of the big agencies, big comedy agencies are like, "Man, like we didn't realize Wyoming had such great places, such great theaters, such great fan base that loves it." And so now we do fun shows all of the time. We do whatever we can to bring some really cool stuff into town. And so as far as that aspect of it, it's been awesome.
Well, we're
Yeah, it's
glad
incredible.
we're glad you're back. We'll take you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Great
Thank
for
you.
the state. So, I had one question too before
Yeah.
we wrap up. I'm just calling it CBT now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do it.
The new
CBT.
CBD. It's CBT.
Boom.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
that. Not the other one.
we could do that study. What's more effective, CBT or CBD?
Yes, there you go. Right.
Or CBT on CBD. And now that's just,
Yeah.
That could be
That's
the
There you
just-
name.
go.
yeah.
And then
CBT
on
on CBD.
on DVD, on TNT.
On DVD, on DAD.
Yeah.
Survey says that's A-OK.
Yep.
Just ran.
So, Dominic, I love your approach. You talk about like how you try to make it fun and lighthearted, and you're still
Yeah.
like working and switching the belief structure. But just curious, like, does it ever trigger a sensitivity within somebody? Or
It's
do you have those emotional maybe releases during these kind of things?
100%, all of the time. And it's actually funny you say that. So one of the other big sponsors of this last event, the wonderful gentleman named Josh, who runs a place called Hilltop Bank here in Cheyenne and in Casper. And he served on the force as a police officer for I think he said 17 years before he retired from the force and did this, and that's why he was interested in sponsoring the event. And he came, and I was doing all this stuff. Like I do this. Okay, I'll show you just a little fun thing that I kind of talk about is our brains as human beings, we have this amazing thing called an imagination, right? And an imagination is it comes from the word image. It means to make an image in your head, right? So when we were kids and we played make believe, we imagine. Like, let me ask you, what were some stuff you like to play make believe when you were kids?
I was a singer.
Oh yeah.
I was a pop star, or I was
Love it.
I don't know. I was crazy. I thought I was
you-
Weird Al.
Did you?
So
Yes. Did you do parody songs?
I did, and I still do. My entire family does actually still. So daily.
You do parody songs? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
We ruin lots of sentimental music, and oh gosh, My
I
kids
love
are
it.
not my kids don't like it right now, but they'll like it one day. But yes,
Oh,
so there's a
that's
lot
so
of
great.
imagination always going.
Did you do the whole like standing on your bed and pretending it's a stage and imagining people screaming your name and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I had a whole mic set up. I used the tennis racket as a guitar.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I
Okay.
I did it all.
So that's a perfect example. When you're a kid, you use your imagination and look at the joy that it brings back just remembering that, right? Like having, playing make believe, and it's so much fun. Well, that's what actors do. Actors they play make believe professionally. Just like basketball's a game when you play when you're a little kid. If you get good enough, you go pro. Acting is just playing make believe. And a lot of people think that they stopped playing make-believe when they were kids, or they don't play make-believe as much as when they were a kid. And the truth is that's not true, because around puberty, our imagination just shifts. We still use it today just as much as we did when we were kids, but our imagination shifts to, instead of imagining myself as a rock star with a guitar and making dance moves, we start imagining things like, what if people don't like me? What if people make fun of me? What if I didn't have enough time to do my hair in the morning and everyone's going to look at me and talk bad about me behind my back, right? And then we get older and it becomes things like what if something terrible happens? What, you send a text to your loved one and they don't respond back, and what happened? You start using your imagination to just think the worst. It's called catastrophizing. And then the thing is that the part of your brain where emotions come from, it hasn't developed to catch up to your imagination. So it doesn't know the difference. So whether you're actually experiencing something or imagining something, the emotional part of your brain is going to react to the image in your head just as much as it's going to react to reality. I'll prove it to you right now, okay? So I love this one. This is my favorite. Imagine a chimpanzee. Okay? Can you imagine a chimpanzee? Right?
Yep.
Okay. Imagine it's like, dark hair, charcoal skin, right? That kind of thing. But now imagine that he's wearing a little like red tuxedo, like a little chimpanzee James Bond. It's all like tailored,
Yeah.
Imagine he's got a little martini glass in his hand, and he's kind of giving you that chimpanzee smoochy face, like, right? Like that. Okay. Now, this chimpanzee's not real. I'm just painting an image in your head, but you're laughing right now because the image you're seeing, the emotional part of your brain is going, that's funny. And the more detail I give that image, right? The more detail I give the image, the harder you'll laugh. Watch. Like, so now imagine this kissy-faced chimpanzee who's flirting with you smiles at you, but he's only got 3 teeth up top, right? And then in a flirtatious act, he grabs his bottom lip and pulls it down, and you see he's got a gold-plated grill for his bottom teeth. And in diamonds, it just says, chimpin' ain't easy.
Chimpin' ain't easy.
Love it.
And see, so look, the more we paint this image, the more you laugh because the emotional part of your brain is getting more defined and you're laughing. Now, here's the thing. It works with funny images like that, right? That's what I do as a stand-up. I put funny images in your head and you laugh at the image. But if we're what psychologists call catastrophizing, if we're putting, these images in our head of what if the worst thing ever happens? What if everything goes terrible? What if what if the worst, this hellscape I imagine, this horror movie in my mind, what if that happens? The same way that you laughed at the image of the monkey, you're going to panic over this image in your head, right? And it's gonna bring up those feelings, and that is what we call anxiety. Anxiety is just imagining the worst case scenario and you panicking right now as if it's happening in this moment. Now, the reason I can confidently say that anxiety only happens in your head is because if it was happening in real life, we call that torture, right? Like if it was happening right now. That's why I love, like, I have a bunch of wonderful quotes on anxiety. Like, I think it was, one of there was a quote from a very smart old guy. And he said, it wasn't Walt Whitman. It was the other one. Anyway, he said, I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. Another one is, anxiety is believing conspiracy theories about yourself.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Which is good. Or my personal favorite is, anxiety is daydreaming a nightmare. Right? You're just imagining this stuff and you're feeling it right now. So, what I do is I teach people how to kind of control that. Does that make sense? So what I'll do is the first thing you can't do is you can't just tell yourself to stop. If you're like, oh, I'm just thinking of something and it's, ruining my day right now, what you can't do is you can't be like, okay, stop thinking about it. Don't think about it. Don't. Because if I were to tell you right now, hey, Tress, hey, Myra, think about anything in the whole world, anything. You have the freedom. Just don't think about a chimpanzee in a red tuxedo. Don't think about his grill. Don't think about his think about anything. Just don't think about that chimpanzee. And don't think about the fact that I never said if he was wearing pants or not. Don't think about that. Don't think about his hairy chimpanzee legs. Don't imagine what does a chimpanzee's butt look like. Don't think about how immediately after this you're gonna You see how every time I say don't do it, that's
then you
what you think
it.
about, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm tasked to do is I'm tasked to check, because where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? And as Corey Ten Boom said, worrying doesn't take away tomorrow's troubles. It just takes away today's joys. Yeah. Because you're, and that's what people really do is it's like we have a constant movie going on in our head. Mm-hmm. And when something bad happens, what we end up doing is we end up just replaying the movie over, rewind, play, rewind, play. That's why I ask people, hey, when they're like, oh, I had such a bad day. I'm like, did you have a bad day or did you have a bad 5 minutes that you've just been replaying all day
Over
long
and over.
and
Yeah.
judging, so like Myra, I mean, how many times have you replayed the movie of your mom backing into your car?
A couple times, but I'm not as mad. I'm not upset about it. I'm just a storyteller, Dominic. So I
That's
talk in
it.
narratives. I live
Me
in a
too.
movie in my head, but that's just my creativity or my mental problems. I don't know. Like there's a couple of could be a
Sure.
couple things.
That's it. Some people call them mental problems. Other people
Yeah.
call them quirky personality traits.
Yeah.
Other people call them the reason they've been incarcerated. Be careful with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey,
Watch yourself,
It could
Myra.
be
it
different.
might be a vacation compared to things going on right now. So I don't know.
So what I like to train people on how to do is how to use their imagination instead of to cause their anxiety. I like to do it to cause their hope or inspiration. So now it's like, all right, let's imagine not just the best case scenario. Let's imagine all those obstacles in your way, and let's imagine a plan on how to overcome them. Let's imagine who you want to be in 5 years, and really get that detail big, and then work backwards and imagine a battle plan to actually get to that point. And it's so funny because when I do that exercise with people in prison or in the corporate world, it's unbelievable. I love this exercise where I call it the red carpet party 5 years from now, where we pretend there's a red carpet and I'm interviewing people on the red carpet, but I have to interview you as your dream self 5 years from now. And so everything you say has to already be accomplished. So you write down your dreams, right? And so let's say your dream is to write a book, and I'll say, so how did it feel when you were put on the New York Times bestseller list? And they have to use their imagination to already claim it. Right? They have to be like, it was so good. I'm so glad I've helped this people, and I was like, yeah. And you broke the record online for most views in a TED Talk. Tell me about that, and the amazing thing is whether it's guys in prison who have tattoos on their face and lived a life of crime, or whether it's these harsh, corporate CEOs who own a bank and are staunch, I've seen both of them break down in tears in those exercises, because what we're doing is we're overcoming the mental barrier that tells them they can't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And
absolutely.
it's wild. It's like, like I swear to you, I have seen 60-year-old CEOs break down in tears in an exercise where we're just playing the same games that you played when you were a kid, jumping on your bed or something like that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for those examples and for the conversation today. Before we end, we always like to ask one parting question to all our guests, and I think it's pretty clear with you, but how do you stay authentic, Dominic?
Oh, that's an amazing question. I would have to say CBT on CBD.
I love it.
Helps
Best
a
answer
lot.
yet.
No.
Yeah.
No, I do have to say, I really have to thank my wife for keeping me authentic, because we're to a point in our relationship where she just calls me out on everything, and she won't let me, get away with BSing anything ever,
Yeah.
I say this in my stand-up set, but it's a perfect example. Like, if I was doing MMA, because I'm a man in my 30s, and that's what you have to start doing, apparently.
Yeah.
And so I started taking those classes, and she came to, I was working on like a sidekick, and anyway, I couldn't do it. And I was like, could I just if I could do it if I got a running start. And my instructor was like, no. That's you using energy and momentum to make up for your lack of skill. And my wife proudly was like, that might as well be on his gravestone.
Yeah.
And I was like,
hilarious.
all right. So she keeps me authentic for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We all need those people in our lives. So
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and give us where people can find you, and we'll also put it in the show notes as well.
Sounds great.
Um,
Okay. If you go to YouTube and want to see my comedy, just type in Dominic Syracuse. It's Dominic, and then Syracuse like the city. You can catch my stand-up special on there. You can catch some silly skits and stuff like that if you want to laugh. If you're more interested in the mental health route, I would say to check out my website. It's the longest website title ever. It's called cognitivebehavioraltheater.com. You can see a bunch of videos and a lot of the work that I've done in all the places that we've talked about and everything. And and then keep an eye out and follow us, because if you're throughout the state of Wyoming, we might be coming to your city, doing some fun exercises and workshops. So if you feel like having a fun way to learn how to get rid of stress, then come on down.
yes.
Awesome.
Sounds great. Well, what a great conversation, Dominic.
Yeah,
We
thank you so much, Dominic.
really
That-
appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe you guys next time, don't talk so much, because I really didn't get a chance to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
Sorry. Bye. See, now you
it's all
get why
good.
my wife is like, maybe quiet time, Dom.
Yeah.
I'm like a wind-up toy. You just
Yeah.
wind it up and it just
I-
goes. Sorry.
Nah, I get it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
thank
We
you.
really do appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is so cool. I'm so happy that you invited me on, and I can't wait to hear the episode, and I can't wait to watch all the other episodes. I'm gonna go back and watch everything and check out everything in the future. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Hey.
until next time.
Stay authentic.